Times Pawn Stars got ripped off big time. We all know about the cons that criminals use to get their way. It seems nothing can stop a shyster from marking their prey with the big red X. No one likes to see that though. It's hard to see Pawn Stars being ripped off. Even they get their share of criminals coming into the store. From thieves to confidence men, they have seen their share of bad seeds come and go. Still though, it is difficult to believe that even the seasoned staff on Pawn Stars would be subject to the confidence trick. However, television personalities are just as susceptible as the rest, and once the deal is done, there is no turning back. That is, unless the property turns out to be stolen. Then it often has to be handed over to the police as evidence. The staff of Pawn Stars has changed quite significantly over the years. Where it used to be just the old man and his crew of 3, now it has expanded to 30 employees. The shop also underwent a $400,000 renovation that was mainly geared towards expansion. Basically, the store has become less facile for the old man himself to regulate every movement. He may have 20 years of experience at his location in Las Vegas, Nevada, but not all of his staff understand the lay of the land. And when it comes to Las Vegas, it attracts a certain clientele. This is especially true since the show has made them world famous. So you have to understand that there will be a few times where the trickery reached epic proportions. Rick Harrison has relayed the time when he himself purchased stolen goods by accident. This time was really a doozy. It cost him $40,000. So when a good looks too good to be true, then often it is. This particular incident involved a pair of diamond earrings. He was the mark of a man who exuded success and confidence. They say the clothes don't make a man, but sometimes in the sales business, that is exactly what happens. That's why so many people in business dress up every day in suits. It really does give off an aura of taste and class. This confidence man was wearing a nice suit and came in with a tiny artifact. The pouch contained a pair of diamond earrings. Harrison did not have alarm bells right away. After all, he knew what to ask before procuring the sale. And of course, he asked for the mandatory receipts. Surprisingly, the man even had one of those. So there was really no reason to be suspicious. But unfortunately, this is not the end of this story. What seemed like an epic find turned into a royal nightmare. A couple days later, the police came to his world-famous gold and silver pawn shop looking for some answers. Thankfully, the lady who had her diamonds stolen was able to get them back. And as well, the police were able to track down the criminal. So all was well in the world once again. That is, except of course for poor Rick Harrison. He had to fork out the bill for the criminal's blunder and was 40 grand none the richer. It's unfortunate in society that good people so often have to pay out when a criminal comes knocking. Rick Harrison is in the business of finding treasure for cheap, so it is no surprise to find him at an auction to sell his wares. One particular auction trip was not kind to him. In an episode in May 2015, the star lost a substantial amount. He told the cameras that the entire process didn't feel good. The event started out at Julian's in LA. Rick Harrison had come a long way to make his sales, and although LA can be glitzy, it can be a pain getting all the items to retail down there. So he was hoping to make a profit for his endeavor. But it turns out the trip didn't even pay for his plane ticket. In fact, Harrison lost $100,000. This fiasco all occurred because the larger items that he'd lugged across the state didn't sell well. First, it was his 1940s Indian motorcycle with a sidecar. This vehicle cost him $29,000 out of pocket. Wow, those estimations were just way off. Not to rub it in, Mr. Harrison, we know it still smarts. Another relic that he thought would sell well was a Fender Stratocaster that was previously owned by Vic Flick. In a state that appreciates its stars, Harrison was expecting that this would be the perfect place to sell the Fender. However, he overestimated the star appeal, and as a result, he was out of $35,000 on the guitar. That's got to smart. And while those losses were bad, they just kept breaking up. He lost an additional $36,000 on various other miscellaneous goods that he was offering up for auction. So while it seems like pawn shops are always winning, scrimping, and saving, even the big-time players can lose a substantial amount of dough. Not too many small shops could take a hit of 100 grand on the chin. It could very well put them out of business after a few rounds of overestimation. Season 6 had a few oopsie moments as well. In the episode that was entitled Say It Ain't So, Rick Harrison thought a book was worth much more than even the asking price, and the asking price was $13,000, so you better believe that he thought the book had some special significance. All this fuss and muss was over a signature. That is, one signature of the famous baseball legend Joe Jackson. You might recognize the name more aptly when you add Shoeless in. The reasoning behind why the find was so significant was that Joe Shoeless Jackson rarely signed anything. In fact, he got out his pen so infrequently that it was actually the most precious sports signature of all time, at least according to Harrison's estimations. Harrison knew that he was taking a risk because this signature is often copied, but his inner need for it to be real just took over. He actually bought the book and then consulted his book expert, Rebecca. Of course, if he had just done that first, he would have known the book was probably not legit. But he had it now in his grasp, so it was time to make sure. He sent it out to one of the experts who told him that it wasn't even a good fake. That was probably not the worst blunder he had made, but he must have regretted letting his greed take over. This is a lesson for all those impulse shoppers out there. Don't buy a used Fendi only to find out it's a fake. We've heard of sibling rivalry, but what about when a niece steals from an uncle? There's got to be a serious level of desperation going on there. Well, Pawn Stars has officially now seen it all. It all started out with the coin collection that David Walters, a Nevada State resident, no doubt treasured. He reported it missing in a criminal complaint because his niece Jennifer Beckman had stolen it from him. He must have been devastated that it was someone in his family. But the Pawn Stars crew had no knowledge of the police investigation yet. They paid $50,000 for the coin collection and did what any enterprising big business would do: melted the coins to get the gold. Jennifer Beckman was a somewhat savvy criminal, as she only sold a third of the collection each visit. David Walters was out of luck by the time the police got to the shop. They didn't have to hold on to the coins for the mandatory 30 to 90 day buyback period. Coins happen to be the exception to the rule, since they are usually pre-appraised when they come in packaging. Well, hopefully the niece and the uncle worked it out. The uncle mainly had sentimental attachment because he believed the coins were worth even more than that. The Pawn Stars insisted not. So this is a time where the store was almost cheated but escaped due to clauses. But as for awkward Christmas get-togethers, we think there might be some alternate arrangements in that family for at least a few years to come. Finally, you would think that the crew is used to appraising the real jewelry from the paltry substitutes, but seeing that sparkly rock has a way of making people's eyes glaze over. It is not always easy to tell what is real diamond from cubic zirconia. Some enterprising young men might like this fact, but when it comes to finances and pawn store dealers, they are not impressed when the truth finally does come out. Richard Harrison has his own diamond woes. He's mistaken the synthetic gem from the real deal many a time. To be more specific, he's probably had a $30,000 in losses. Bye to those dollar bills, to quote 90s boy band lyrics mixed with a fusion of 21st century hip-hop. It doesn't quite have the same ring to it as the real songs. And the same goes for gems. If it isn't a diamond, then it's not going to bring in a real profit margin. But these stars do have a lesson to tell everyone about cubic zirconias. If it's looking too perfect, then it's probably not a diamond. Diamonds usually have flaws when a person looks at it under the light. Now, of course, there are synthetic diamonds that are coming out to confuse the matter, or it could just be another way of cleverly rebranding the demonized zirconia. The same kind of blunders can happen with brand names. It is no secret that a Rolex costs a lot of moolah. Corey Harrison has a story to share in this regard. He grew up in the trade, but he might not have learned the best street smarts. When he finally got on the payroll at 18 years old, he felt prepared to take on the world, but he bought 6 fake Rolexes in a week. The entire family had to fork over the $4,000 loss. It's kind of sad how these things go. At least, though, this is not a jaw-dropping lesson. Rather, it's an experiment on how the young buck still probably needs some mentoring and a few hard knocks in his entry-level gig. So we've seen it all at this point. There's the diamonds, nieces, auctions, and criminal customers. Pawn Stars really is a good business lesson for all the viewers out there. But a lot of viewers don't necessarily feel sorry for these stars at this point. They are often maddened when the scales tip the other way around. A lot of viewers even think that the Pawn Stars enjoy ripping people off. Everyone's got to make a buck, but pawn store owners are still not immortalized into the best business books by many, even after they detail some of their extreme losses. But still, It's an honest way to make a buck, or at least it's better than stealing. Although with some of the deals the Pawn Stars make, some consumers still believe that they are making a steal. But at least the police won't be taking them down anytime soon. It all makes for good TV.